Hello there, Will. Hi, everyone.
Hey guys, how are we? Marlon, good to see you here. We're going to have everybody just kind of trickling in here to the room and we'll get everything started up here in just a minute, guys. Happy Wednesday, happy inauguration day. Looks like Alex is joining us here now. Guys, as you do start to trickle in, go ahead and let everybody know where you're from. You can go ahead and use the chat feature down there in the bottom of the window and use the chat. Let people know where you're coming from, what your name is, what city you are currently doing deals in, and go ahead and let people know your Instagram handle. That way we know where to find you and we can connect with you here outside of the group. Again, we'll
What's up, my
let
deal makers? What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining today. We have another amazing webinar lined up for you guys.
Can't wait, guys. We're going to get things started here in just a minute. Jay's joining us here as well. So we cannot wait to get things started with you.
Got people joining from all over the country. Love it.
Yeah, go ahead and let everyone know where you're from, guys. You know, obviously we're here in Los Angeles. Alex is out in Hawaii.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Inauguration Day as well. 2021, what a year. Really excited for today. We have a special guest speaker coming in as well.
So guys, we're going to go ahead and get things started here. Again, thank you if this is your first time coming out and joining us. Thank you for joining us. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back. We're excited to have you back, and we're excited to jump into some really cool questions today. I know today is Inauguration Day, so a lot of things going on in the country, but obviously a lot of things going on for us as well. The new year and looking to get things started and hit the ground running. So if this is your first time, go ahead and use that chat feature at the bottom. Again, let us know where you're joining from, what your Instagram handle is, and what your name is. Let us know what market you're currently investing in as well, just so that we know that. And you know, that way we can kind of connect with you as well. If this is your first webinar, what we're going to do now is we're going to send out a quick poll. We just want to know what kind of real estate investment strategy you are kind of focusing on. If you're doing BRRRRs, if you're doing buy and holds, if you're doing fix and flips or creative finance, if you're a wholesaler, if you're doing Airbnbs or short-term rentals, go ahead and fill out that poll just so that we can get a little bit of a better idea of who we do have in here. And without further ado, we'll let Alex go ahead and give you guys a brief intro on our special guest.
Yes, thank you so much, Will. And so today, you guys, we're going to be having Vlad, a good friend of mine. I've known Vlad now for about 8 months since we've been working in the same coaching program. And I thought he'd be a great guest for us to have on for you guys because previous polls have told us that a lot of you guys are just getting started. And because he's having such an amazing first year and now going into his second year, I thought it was just a great example of someone that's going out there, putting in the work, not making excuses, and making things happen in a difficult market. And hopefully that will inspire you guys to do the same.
And guys, just to echo what Alex said, I mean, Vlad really is an all-star. You know, they're in the same coaching mentorship program with Brian Pineda, Alex and Vlad are. And when we went out there for the Q4 Mastermind, Vlad takes home the MVP award and Alex Camacho here takes home the Helping Hands award. So you guys really are in some pretty good hands right here today with two of the top performers from that mentorship group, giving you some insight as to how they're doing it, how they're going about their business. And in Vlad's case, how he's a 21-year-old kid fresh into the real estate game that is absolutely just crushing it. So we're excited to welcome him on later. Without further ado, we'll dive into a couple of questions that you guys were asking that we want to get you some answers to. The first one that we're going to dive into with Alex is, where are you getting your leads? Like, where are you generating leads right now?
Definitely, yeah. So leads, you guys, is the lifeblood of real estate investing business. I've always been on the front end because I just know how important lead generation is. So we focus a lot of time, energy into that. Our current core strategies still remain. We still consistently buy property and pursue property off the MLS. So we're always mining the MLS through different searches, through constantly talking to agents on properties. Maybe it's not that property, but we're asking about anything they have coming up. So just MLS, maybe it's not, a lot of people say that there isn't deals on the MLS, and granted, there's less property sitting in the market, but we're still seeing success there. So we're still on the MLS. We're constantly networking, whether it be through these webinars or attending other webinars or in our market or anything like that. And that's through networking with wholesalers, with attorneys, with realtors, with other investors. We're just constantly networking, and just trying to expand all the people that know what we're doing. We're also really bullish on social media, so we're constantly either in the DMs on Instagram, or I'm constantly adding relevant people to my Facebook network. So constantly, I know not social media is one of those things that you kind of love it or hate it, but it's not going away, guys. So you got to be posting what you're doing, what you're up to. And I bought 3 properties in the last 18 months from social media, so I know it works. There are deals to be had there. And then also we're increasing our marketing this month. What we're doing is we're going to be doing a lot of the deal machine, which is including the driving for dollars, going out there to properties in neighborhoods that we want to buy, finding those distressed properties and marketing to them with postcards and letters. And we're also cold calling. We're hiring another full-time cold caller this month. That's one of our goals. And then we are heavy on internet leads. We're raising our spend on internet leads by $3,000 this month, because I've had a lot of success with internet leads. So that's our main way of getting the leads.
And you guys, you heard Alex say it, you can get leads in these kind of networking groups as well. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results with you guys so that everybody can go ahead and see that, just so you guys can get an idea who's in this room. We have some people doing buy and hold, some people doing fix and flips. So one of the ways to grow your network is by meeting other people. There's 6 wholesalers in here. So if you're a wholesaler that's in this room, why don't you go ahead and repost in the chat that you're a wholesaler, so that if people are actively looking to buy properties, we can go ahead and get you guys connected. All right. And we'll jump into the next question. I'll leave the polls up for you guys to watch. All right.
Okay, awesome. And definitely, yeah, leads are important. I know a lot of people in this are like first-time investors, first-time flippers. So the next question we have is, if you have leads, how do you know if you have a real deal?
Well, you got to get great at analyzing the opportunities that come across your desk, bottom line. And the way to do that is to run the numbers. We usually start with the after repair value, just identifying what we truly believe that we can get for the property. Sometimes it's in the form of just doing just a simple desktop appraisal, just an initial quick and dirty. Other times it's say, hey, we're a little bit more advanced opportunity. We're out there driving the comps of the property. We're actually looking at it itself, as well. But running the numbers, identifying what you really feel like you can get for that property, or it could be worth after you repair it, and possibly if you're going to be doing a BRRRR, is it going to appraise, so then you could refinance the property. Just really got to know what your numbers on the back end, what it'll be worth afterwards. And then understanding your potential exit strategy, I think is really important. I know we have a variety of people on the call, but for us, our core strategy is flipping. With that profit, we're looking to buy income property, but you got to know your desired profit. For us, it's a certain amount per flip based on where it's at in LA, in the SoCal area. So, we really know our numbers, where we want to be at. And then how much money for us also is like, how much money are we going to have to use? Since we're flipping multiple properties at once, when you're just flipping like one property here and there, it doesn't come up as much. Or if you're just working on one deal here and there, it doesn't come up as much. But when you're flipping volume or multiple properties, you need to take into account your cash flow, what's coming in, profits, what amount of capital you have available, how soon this other property is going to sell, a couple other factors. So we take that into account. And then, we just really need to know how much bandwidth we have regarding our contractors and, our current people. Being that I live in Hawaii, I'm not actively in LA, and Will and Jay are in LA. I got to take into account their bandwidth and how much they can kind of handle, along with, managing the current projects we already have. So I think you need to analyze the deals and then everything else, like I just discussed, to really know if you have a real deal on your hands, so then you can move forward and buy. Yeah.
Very well, Alex. Now, let's say that I'm a not very experienced investor, and I have an appointment to take a look at a property. And well, I look at the obvious things. And it's a little work or a lot of work here and there. But this next question is wondering, what do new investors miss or overlook when they're analyzing a new property?
I think the one big thing that comes to mind is really the accuracy of their after repair value, because if you don't know the area, fortunately, I mean, I've been in hundreds and hundreds of properties across Southern California, and I already grew up in Southern California, so I know a lot of these areas. So you can tell me a property in an area, and I could kind of estimate it based on my experience. But if you don't have that same experience, then you need to get it. You need to understand your after repairs values very, very detailed for you to make quick decisions and accurate offers. So, I think that a lot of times newer investors will kind of miss that, because if you miss your ARV by say $20,000, $30,000, you think you could only sell it for $475. Maybe you can get $500,000 for it. If you knew it a little bit better, that can make or break a deal all day long. So if you're off on the rehab a little bit, you're off on the ARV, I mean, you're missing out on deals because you're just not accurate. So you need to have that accuracy. And then, so I find that not a lot of people talk about the driving of the comps. I mean, again, this is if you're going to flip the property, or even if you're not going to flip it. Again, you need to know if it's going to appraise based on the comps if you're going to do a BRRRR anyway. So you need to, and then if there's additional bonus area, if there's odd layouts for your property, certain things like that are also, I think, overlooked, because if it has an odd layout and it's a nicer area, you might overlook that. If it's an odd layout but it's an entry level area, that might not matter. So newer investors might overlook stuff like that, because you don't want to over rehab, but you don't want to under rehab either. You need to get to a point where you're basically within $5,000 or $10,000 on your ARV, on your rehab estimates. That takes some time, but that's going to help you get more deals, because if you're off by, like I said earlier, $20,000 on your ARV, you're off by $10,000 on your rehab, you're off by $30,000 on that offer. So you're going to miss out on that deal, but you got to get your numbers tight. So make sure that you're really understanding your numbers, so that way your offers are better, and there's just more dialed in, and you have a better chance of getting countered or considered or accepted.
Alex, we always talk about that on the ARV side, right? If you're 10% off on an ARV on a $500,000 home, that's $50,000. If you're 10% off on the rehab budget on $80,000, that's $8,000, and that's what you should have been padding anyway. And so it really is important to get that ARV, right, Jay?
Yes, 1,000,000%. Definitely know your numbers. That's the number one thing about real estate. It's definitely math when it comes down to the basics. Moving forward, real estate, I know, it can be hard to have a work-life balance in that, because real estate is a 24/7-hour gig a lot of times. So with that said, what do you do in your personal life that makes you a successful real estate investor?
I'm huge on habits. I haven't always been, but especially the last couple of years, as things started to progress in my business and my life, I've noticed how important it is to have solid, positive habits that help eliminate or reduce or neutralize the bad habits. We all have bad habits, whether that be eating or abusing anything else, or not spending enough time with people that we should be spending, or too much time with people that we shouldn't be spending time with. So I think just having daily habits, which also include the mindset, where sometimes you need to work on your mindset every single day, sometimes you don't, but I don't think people spend enough time on that. Now also, you got to schedule time to reflect on your results and think about your vision for the future. I know that's something that when I got to Hawaii, it's had to think about that a lot, because the lifestyle here is different. I mean, I love it here, don't get me wrong, but there's also some drawbacks, with the time difference to LA, and also like the network that I'm building here, and how soon I start pursuing deals, or what kind of deals I'm pursuing here on, all that. I had to sit and reflect and think about that. And then also on, which is also important for me, and I found that other people are the same, that are also people that I respect that are high performers, is that we, have some type of productive hobbies. I love trail running. So when I was in LA, I was always trail running like at least twice a week, because it helped me unplug. It helped me just kind of remove all the stuff going on in my mind and just get out there and get some exercise. Now it's running on the beach here in Hawaii or swimming at the beach here in Hawaii. So just having productive habits, hobbies, the things that you could do on your leisure time, I think is really, really important, at least once a week. And then we have our race planner where we're have all of our goals. So just having the tracking of what you're doing right, because we all make mistakes, and we all kind of slip back into old bad habits, or cheat on our meal or on our diet sometimes. But you got to have your goals and stuff in front of you, so that way you can kind of get back on track. And that's also why having accountability partners and accountability people is important, because sometimes you need that kick in the butt, or just that, hey, I don't want to let my team down. I don't want to let the people that respect me and that look up to me down. So I want to come through for them. So I think that's big as well.
That's great stuff, Alex. Again, personal life, work life, they definitely have some correlation to them. So looking here in Los Angeles, I know we, focus a lot of our business on single families, but we also do look for those smaller multis, and even one of your goals you stated is to get a larger multifamily. When you're looking in LA, like, how do you find a multifamily unit that's affordable?
That's a great question. First of all, I think it starts with mindset. I mean, because a lot of times with the larger purchases, in LA, you're looking at $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 potentially on a multifamily. And so I think just getting your mind around the fact that if you're going to buy a property like that, you do need to, borrow maybe a little bit more than what you thought. So I think that's an important mindset thing. But right behind that is you got to know the numbers, how to run the numbers on multifamily, which are a little bit different than single family. You got to be able to analyze rents. I personally look at Craigslist ads and rentometer.com. I think you could get 10 free searches on Rentometer, but it's a great website to analyze rents, because a lot of times on these multifamily listings, it'll tell you how much the current rent is. So you want to compare that to where the market rent is for that unit. But another thing to understand and to start looking into is you got to understand rent control laws in LA. Fortunately, I worked for a mentor that knew a lot about multifamily rent control, and because we were buying property at auction, we had to regularly evict people, relocate people. So I got a ton of experience with that. And just there is a couple of protected classes that you need to pay attention to, like elderly, disabled, minor children. So if you got, I've said this before on posts, so I'll say it again because I think it's worth repeating. If you're trying to buy a property in LA County that's under rent control, it's a small medium multifamily, whatever multifamily, it'll if they're paying, this is kind of like for me where I want to run for the hills, where they're paying significantly under market rent, they've been there for a really long time, and they have potentially some of these protected classes under rent control laws, which is disabled, elderly, and minor children. If you have kind of all that going on, that's a recipe for only being able to increase the rent by 3% on that under market value for almost ever. You almost can't even get these people out. And I know I don't want to sound cruel or callous, but at the end of the day, if you're going to make an investment of your hard-earned money, it needs to make sense. And so those scenarios, I want to just stress you guys just to avoid. Now, if it's a hybrid of that, then maybe that's a different story. Maybe, one of the units is market rent, and then it's not going to be a big a deal. And then also the condition takes into place. But, just understand that and do some research on that. For us, what we found to be kind of a golden rule, kind of like you do in single family, 70% of ARV is a very common golden rule. 1%, for renting, 1% of the purchase price is another golden rule. Well, for us, it's been $175,000 to $200,000 per door. So I recently bought a duplex in Paramount, and that we bought that for $204,000 per door, and it's a fantastic deal. We've been looking at other property, like the one we looked at today. It was a 4-unit, it was $800,000, but it was, like I just mentioned, all of the units were under market rent. They all been there for a long time. It just didn't have enough upside potential. But we would buy that property for $650,000, $675,000 because then it makes sense. But not at that. So anyway, and then yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much covers the multifamily, but you can do it. It's just a matter of avoiding those ones that have very little upside potential, as I just mentioned.
Excellent, Alex. And we'll mention in that multifamily, right now, everyone knows that your main thing, it's flipping deals, but maybe you have other types of intentions as far as investments. So more long-term or different types of investments. So do you see flips as a tool to obtain capital and to buy more long-term investments?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people ask about that, and because BRRRR is a really important. It's just a popular strategy. A lot of people are talking about it right now. Multifamily renting, passive income. But for me, two things. Number one, I like flipping. It fits my skill sets. It also is something that I derive a lot of satisfaction from, and not because the money part, but because a lot of these times we're working on entry level properties in working class neighborhoods, very similar to where I grew up. And so I take great pride in rehabbing properties that are in the hood, that are in the ghetto, that are, in areas that are kind of overlooked, or a lot of people don't want to be in, but I know that those areas are going to change and improve. And I like to be a part of that. So there's that. But as far as the question is gaining capital, I think there's no one size fits all when it comes to real estate investing. I think you got to find what you're passionate about. And so I feel like flipping is a great tool for me to make a large income, and then I could buy more property compared to like just buying like one rental here and there. I would like the ability to buy multiple rentals, and that's what flipping is. It's gaining more capital so I could buy more income property in a faster time frame compared to just like one-off deals here and there. And we're a flipping company. We're an investment company focusing on flipping, but with the end goal of having passive income, long-term investments. Everybody in my team has that goal. We're all aligned with that goal.
Yeah, and sometimes there's an end to the means, right? And it's a means to the end, and that's what it is. It's hey, we're doing the flips to get to that passive income. So along the way, a lot of times investors will say, hey, I have a large amount of money, Alex. I want to buy a house all cash. I know that's not necessarily something you've done. What are some of the specific loans that you've maybe leveraged in the past?
Well, and typically we're using a hard money loans to buy the properties. We're putting 20% down, sometimes 15% down, and then as of late we've been getting private money mortgages to cover the down payment and part of the rehab. I'm transitioning to a point in my investing career where I'm totally cool. I'm totally fine with using my own money to invest in these properties and flip these properties. But now I have other people that want to help me scale and invest with me. So now I'm bringing in, this private money to help scale the company and do more flips and get more people paid and do more deals. And, and I'm making a little bit more, I'm making more money, but there's less of my capital involved. But because of my track record, people trust me and they understand that, hey, this guy can execute and he has a team and the experience to execute. So typically we're doing a hard money loan. I'm happy to introduce anybody to my hard money lenders because they're great people. And I've worked really hard to build those relationships because I've had really bad lenders as well. And they can make or break a deal. But yeah, typically hard money, 80%, 85% first mortgage, and then another 10 to 20% second mortgage to cover the down payment and the rehab.
All right, awesome, amazing questions again. Next one is for people that don't have the financial income for all of this going on. I know it takes a lot to invest. How can I find homeowners if I have no money for direct mail?
I think you could communicate with the title rep. I mean, their title rep will give data out for free. Also, you can network with other investors and see if you can call some of their leads because sometimes they need help with prospecting. If you don't have any money, then there's different. You don't need to use that as an excuse. You just need to be more resourceful. Bottom line, and that's finding people like I said, like a title rep. I'm happy to introduce you with my title rep, and he can get you some data. We have some extra data if you really want to cold call. You want to get after it. We can you can definitely cold call some of our data because we have more than enough. And then we're gonna probably end up doing some skip tracing on one of these webinars to show you guys how we get the phone numbers. I know that's something we were talking about in preparation for this one. So yeah, I mean, don't use it as an excuse. There's definitely ways to get data and find homeowners without having money.
So guys, I'm going to go ahead and launch a second poll here. Just wondering in the room, what level of a real estate investor are you? Are you a newbie, Are you a beginner that's done a deal? Are you kind of intermediate? You've done 2 or 3 or 4 deals? Do you just, flip shit and you've done 10 or more deals and you're in charge of things? Where are you at on the spectrum of things? We want to make sure that we help you guys out here. And as Alex mentioned, our poll last week, you guys really indicated that you would want to see some more of Alex's business systems and more of Alex live on the phone with some sellers or real estate agents. So I think what we're doing next week is we're going to have Marlon give a little presentation on how we get our leads, how we skip trace our leads. Once we skip trace them, how we load them into the system, and then how Jay and I and Alex will make those calls. And we'll actually have Alex get on the phone and make some live calls for you guys. So look forward to that. In the meantime, Alex, when you are running comps and you're sitting there and you're like, all right, I'm taking a look at a deal. Where do you know if there's spread on a deal? Like we always hear that term spread. Where do you know that happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so it's sometimes called spread or gross margin. It's kind of like interchangeable, but essentially, if what we're looking for is we want to see if we're looking for like apples to apples. So if I see a property that it's been rehabbed, it clearly looks like a flip, and all of you guys have seen a flip, you can see it has like professional pictures, it's all remodeled, it has a certain look. It's vacant typically, sometimes it's staged, but you could use Zillow or Redfin or MLS ideally to look for those properties, and you make sure you're comparing it to like apple to apple. So if the property owner tells you they want $475,000 and you see a very similar apple for apple property sold for $500, your gross margin is only $25,000 there. So it's not really that they're not that motivated or they want retail price. They're just, you're very far off. But on the flip side, if you're, you see that exit comp or that sales comparable at 500,000, and then they're asking 400,000, now you got $100,000 spread. That is getting pretty close to a deal. What we found in LA, we typically need about $100 to $150,000 gross margin, and that's typically going to make the deal work. So there's that. So I really like to look for the exit comp, as I talked about, just really finding that true like for like apple for apple property. It's some properties they're unique, so they're a little bit difficult, but for the most part, the properties that we're dealing with, we'll have that because we're dealing with properties that are in very active areas, investment areas, and zip codes that are very popular right now. And then we're seeing a lot of those like for like comps, so we're able to see like, hey, we think we can get this price for it, and then that helps us identify how much gross margin we have. That way, you just don't waste your time going to an appointment with you only have a $25,000 gross margin, and then just nailing down the properties that have a bigger gross margin, getting all over those. And then we have the flip calculator. We always give that away for free. I created that a custom calculator. So check out our email that we sent to you. Or if you guys want the flip deal calculator, let us know and we'll email it over to you.
Awesome, Alex. Now, for this next question, let's say that as an investor, I'm a little bit more experienced now, and I go to a property and I take a look and I notice what needs to be renovated and what not that much really. But besides from the obvious kitchens, bathrooms, and square footage, how do you determine to make further improvements on a property?
And Alex, you see a lot of people here on these poll results are newbies and beginners. And so really kind of let people know that difference. Like, how are you deciding what improvements to make?
Yeah, that's a great question, guys. So what I typically look for is now it's more intuitive because I've done so many deals, but at the beginning it was like really what I was told is you really want to be looking at the houses that have sold that are similar, that are your exit comps that we just talked about, or your like for like, and what kind of rehab have those been, what has been done on those. You don't want to over rehab something, but you don't want to under rehab something. So if you pay and I mean really close attention, I will literally go through these pictures of these exit comps of these houses that are like for like and take my sweet time, because a lot of times they're like 30-40 pictures. So all you simply have to do, hey, did they do an AC on this one? Another example would be like when we rehab property in Antelope Valley in Palmdale, Lancaster, we don't really do the backyard, that green. Because most of the houses out there, it's really dry over there. Most people don't have lawns in their backyard. So why spend that extra $1,500 if I don't have to? Most people are not. And it's going to turn into dirt anyway. Another example would be like Highland Park. In LA, it's the northeast part of LA, and everybody loves a nice backyard with the lights hanging down and the tarps that kind of creating the shade and the little decks. And I remember we did a flip over there with my other mentor, and we didn't do that, and it sat on the market forever because we weren't paying attention to what was par for that area, par for the course, or normal for that area. So you need to pay attention to what is normal, standard for that area, and then rehab appropriately, compared to be like, oh, I want to do this granite countertop on this kitchen, when like everything is just like Home Depot like countertop. Like, you don't need to do that. So I found that to be very important, when like not overdoing it, not underdoing it, because everybody knows you got to redo stuff. But that's a couple of examples of what we would do on property to make sure that we're rehabbing for that area and being normal for that area.
Yes. And I must say, sometimes with properties, try not to get emotionally attached. Sometimes what you put into an investment, is not exactly what the market or that area is. So I've seen some investors put more money into it than they've actually, came out and had a loss. So
You're not living in this property, more often than not, especially for our business model. We're flipping it. So we want to think of that end avatar, not what we would want to see in the house, right?
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So Alex, let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. If you want to go ahead and let everybody know a little bit more about Vlad, I will go ahead and get him on screen for us.
Yeah, definitely. So Vlad, as mentioned before, he's 21 years old. He crushed his first year. He made over $100,000. Now that I've known him for about 8 months, since we've been in the coaching program together, just really, I love his energy. I know he's going out there putting in the work. When I went to Vegas for the mastermind the first time, like, he picked me up and he's on the phone negotiating a deal. And, he has this maturity to him that not a lot of 21-year-olds have. So I really respect that about him. And he's just a go-getter. He's not making excuses, and he's making it happen. So I want you guys to hear his story, how he's scaling up his business in his second year. And just to get to know him, he's in the Vegas market. And that's one of the most competitive markets in the whole country. And he's still making it happen. And I think he has something to share that you guys will find really valuable. So let's bring Vlad in.
Okay, thank you guys for having me. Super
Welcome.
Cool. Heard a lot about these Ask Alex webinars, so it's cool to be on here, sharing some stuff. Cool.
So
Vlad, if you don't mind, dive into your story a little bit and kind of give people some insight. I know Alex kind of introduced you a little bit, but give people a kind of quick run through. Again, Alex mentioned you're 21 years old, right? And here you are, you're getting to pick up Alex at a mastermind, with a lot of really top end real estate investors there. Like, give us some insight. Like, where did you come from? How did you get there? And what did you kind of hit in between?
Yeah, absolutely. So my story, it starts off, I've played football my whole life. So I played football for a really long time. I played, pretty high level high school football. Then I played at UNLV over here at the college here in Vegas. And at one point I just didn't love that anymore and was looking for some different stuff. So I was kind of bouncing around different things. As us entrepreneurs are always trying to find, something that fits, but we just don't like the status quo, of doing the regular stuff. So I got into a couple different things. I did, tried like a sales job, like an insurance sales job. I was trying to be a personal financial advisor for a little bit. So I was just bouncing around doing a bunch of different things. Accidentally joined like a multi-level marketing, a little pyramid scheme. Had no idea what I was doing. And then they're like, you have to recruit people. I was like, never mind, I'm out. Didn't even know that that's what this was. And then one day I was listening to Real Estate Disruptors, Steve Trank's podcast. And I heard Ryan Pineda on there. He was talking about how he's flipping houses in Vegas. And I was like, if it's flipping houses, that sounds cool. And he was like, I flip 100 homes a year. And so I went right to Google and I was like, how much do you make on a house flip? And it was like 20 to 40,000, depending on the market. And I was like, so this guy's a multi-millionaire, essentially. I was like, I need to get in with this guy. So long story short, I ended up kind of reaching out to him and I was like, hey, in his DMs, how can I work with you? I'll work for free. And he kind of blew me off. He was like, at the end of the day, it's expected if you just reach out to somebody and you don't really give any value, they're, there's no point in them really talking to you. So he was just like, hey, you know, come to my meetup, but, you know, can't really do too much, not really hiring right now. It's like, okay, that's cool. So sure enough, I went to a meetup and I was like, hey, I want to flip. And a few of the guys there, they're like, hey, you know, we're all flippers. Why don't you try wholesaling? And so I was like, you know, what's wholesaling? And I kind of looked into it, studied it for about a month. And I was like, okay, seems easy enough. Let's go generate some leads. And then that's kind of how I've kind of stumbled into real estate and just built momentum ever since.
Awesome. What I like about the story though, Rod, I want to highlight you guys is you see how even though he's young, he was trying different things. I can relate to that because I've worked in property management. I've been an agent. I've worked as a lender. I've worked as an Airbnb super host. I mean, all these variety of things. And when you have a variety of things, you see what works and you get to get this experience. And even if you don't make a bunch of money, you kind of like figuring out what doesn't work. And I love how that you just kept on pivoting and then you finally found something. And then you found a mentor, you reached out to him and he blew you off, but you didn't even give up. You kept on going with it and saying, hey, you know what? I'll find a way. And that, you guys, is grit. That's persistence. That's perseverance. You can't train that. You know, that's something that you need to have in entrepreneurship and real estate investing because you're going to get rejected a lot. People are going to tell you no. People are going to tell you that you can't do it. So credit to you, Vlad, for continuing forward and then also trying different things and saying, hey, you know, this didn't work. Let me try something else. Because people will try a couple things, they give up and they just go get a regular job. It's like, you got to try different things, man. So great.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So, okay. I think
and
the
man, for
question
me, Vlad, I think a big thing I kind of took from it was just that you said you kind of studied for 1 month and then you dove in. That's just like incredible. What were some of the things you studied? Like, were you studying YouTubes? Were you reading a book? Like, what were you kind of getting into that gave you that momentum to just take some action after 1 month?
Yeah. So, I mean, once I heard it at the meetup, I kind of was asking everybody, I was like, so you're telling me I could go lock up a deal and then you'll buy it from me and I'll make some money on it? And they're like, yes. And I was like, okay. That makes sense. Like, okay, fine. So then I was studying on YouTube, watching YouTubes, looking it up on Google. And I was like, well, this seems pretty basic. Like it's simple enough, but I was like, there's got to be like a catch to it. So, I mean, I'm not going to know what the catch is till I try it. So I ended up just going out and trying to find leads and, essentially found out, kind of learned as I went. I think the biggest part of kind of my success starting out was not knowing everything, but knowing just enough to get me kind of going to the point that where I found a roadblock, I would go back and, find the answer at that point.
Yeah, I want to, guys, I don't want to skip over this. This is really, really important, which is he didn't use any excuses. He took action. I really feel like sometimes the reason there's the term analysis paralysis is because we end up getting too much information. I think that's one of the challenges nowadays, because I know when I started in 2017, I had took enough action, but also learned enough. And then I didn't get overwhelmed too much. It was like kind of like a mix of both. Now there's so much information out there. It's easy to just get overwhelmed and then not do anything. So it's like almost like the ignorance is bliss, right? Where you don't even know that you're not supposed to be successful in a certain field or a certain strategy or anything like that. You just know you have to take a certain amount of action to potentially be successful, and you're just doing that. So, and if you just do that, you'll get some results and then you'll figure it out from there. But if you don't take those actions, you're never going to get to that point where you're going to be able to ask questions. And I find also it enables you to network better when you're taking action, because then you could earn the right to ask questions like, hey, I did this, this worked, this didn't work. And so can you help me with this? Because I've already taken action, and I'm happy to reward people with my time that are taking action, because I know that they need the help, compared to someone just like, oh, I've been thinking about this, I've been thinking about that, I've been researching this. And not that I don't want to help those people, but it's like, you haven't even taken any real action to like be able to know what the results are going to be for you to go ahead and pivot and then make adjustments like Vlad has been doing. So love it. Love it.
Vlad, I think one thing that really hit home to me right there that you said is you learned as you went. You didn't need to know the entire game, but you said, I knew just as much as I needed to go and get started. and then I learned as I went. What were some of the first things that you think you kind of went into battle with? Like if you had to break it down, obviously you meet a couple of guys, you went in knowing like, hey, if I bring a deal, all I have to do is bring a deal and somebody will buy it. So, you know, what was that first strategy for you? Like, how am I going to get that deal?
Yeah, so I started looking into it, like what are the marketing, like different ways people market, how do you find these sellers? And I started looking at, there's a ton of real estate like coaches out there, like Clever Investor, you know, Cody and who else, like Brendan Daniels and stuff like that. So all they talk about is just going out, finding motivated sellers. They're out there. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go and find motivated sellers. So my first kind of step was finding those motivated sellers. And then, you know, what I didn't know at the time was, you know, how to get properties under contract, how the escrow works, what, you know, I knew the numbers kind of, but at the end of the day, it was like more just me taking action and marketing and going out and kind of getting out of my own head. And then at that point, once I ran into roadblocks, I was like, well, I got a property, but I have no idea how to get this under contract. Well, I might as well, you know, reach out to somebody that knows how to do it and bring them on, and maybe they could teach me now, and I'll bring them value. They bring me value as well.
Yeah, and you're going to hit roadblocks along the way. Like it's not like you're just going to, you know, have a seamless transition, but knowing that you have those people in your corner, you know, that are able to kind of help you out with that, I think that's awesome. Really, when you kind of look at it, taking action, I think is the biggest thing that I kind of took from what you mentioned. If you don't take action, you're never going to get there. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I love that you kind of jumped off and took that action.
Yeah, and then also with the Ryan Pineda thing, whenever you said you'll work for free to do the mentorship, and then you know, like Will said again, missing 100% of the shots that you don't take, putting yourself out there and trying, and then that's sometimes. Personally, I got the, you know, mentorship and being able to work for and with Alex. It's one of the best things that's ever happened, and being involved in this, it's amazing. So yeah, definitely for everyone watching.
And a lot of people don't want to humble themselves and go down to that level and say, hey, I'll work for free. I want to learn. I want to dive in. I want to get my hands dirty. You know, again, especially somebody at your age, a 21-year-old, you know, you think a lot of times younger people, they just, you know, want to jump maybe from job to job, you know, quick transitions, but you're sitting here, you're almost the exact opposite. You're saying, hey man, I want to take some time. I want to work for free. I want to learn the craft. And again, a lot of respect to you for that, man.
Yeah, for sure. And even that wasn't enough. You know, it just didn't align with his vision at the time of what he needed with his company. So he essentially told me that, hey, you know, I don't really need that right now. Like, sorry. And, you know, I could have been like, oh, this guy sucks. I really hate him. And, you know, why would he, you know, deny my free work? But at that point, I was just like, all right, well, you know, I'll pivot now. Now I do want to go out and make money. Maybe I'll, you know, try it myself and see how it goes. So, you know, roadblock, just go around it.
Well, guys, what I want to do is drop one more poll question for you here. This is going to be a really easy one. It's just a yes or no question, but we just want to know from those of you here in the attendees, have you ever wholesaled a deal or not? You know, go ahead and give us a yes or a no, and that way we can kind of get you a little bit more information. What we're going to do now is dive into a couple of questions that are a little bit more specific to wholesaling, and have Alex and our special guest Vlad kind of dive in here and give you guys some answers. Again, we have a lot of beginners in this room. And so Vlad, if you don't mind, again, just going back to how you started off as a beginner, what were some of the things that as a 21-year-old you didn't have that you might have thought that you needed to have, you know, jumping into real estate? You always hear you need money, you need this, you need that. Like, what were some of those hurdles that you were able to get by?
I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, money is a huge, like, you know, starting out, it can be very intimidating, thinking like, hey, you know, I am really broke. Because at the time when I started, I had like $350 or $450, one of those. But at the time, it seemed like an okay amount of money. I mean, I was starting out, I was like, you know, whatever, you know, I have some money saved off my paycheck, but you know, in the grand scheme of real estate, that's, you know, next to nothing. But the great thing is you don't need money. All you need is, you know, some hustle and some drive and some perseverance. And, I think you can find ways to get around the money part, the experience part, and just, still be able to find deals.
And I mean that's really so true. It almost brings the first question just right to home. Folks wanted to know, how do you compete in LA, Alex and Vlad? How do you compete in Vegas in these really competitive markets as a newbie, as a small fish on the block? Like, how are you guys able to compete with these bigger kind of companies?
I'll let Vlad take that one.
Yeah, so like Alex mentioned, I'm in Vegas, so I'm in arguably one of the most competitive markets in the country. With a lot of different markets, you have kind of a major metro, and then you have the outside, kind of those cities, and you could sometimes get away with that. Not really here in Vegas. Here in Vegas, it's Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas. They're all jumbled together. It's basically one metropolitan. Outside, there's nothing really. So you have a ton of different investors competing for the Las Vegas Valley. So, with that being said, how do you compete with kind of the big fish on the block? The big fish on the block, they have something that you don't, which is a lot of money. They spend a ton of money marketing, which is, thousands and thousands of dollars a month. Some of them are spending, tens of thousands of dollars. And you don't have that, but you don't need to have that. As a small single person, you also have something that they don't have, which is, kind of that time and the personal touch. They're kind of throwing money out there and they're getting all the low hanging fruit. But as, a small investor, you're not going to, there's strength in numbers of marketing. When you're marketing, you're going to pick up the easy deals, the people that just really need to sell. You're going to get that slam dunk deal. And it's like, all of a sudden, perfect. But you have to market for deals like that. If you want to just start off and get your first deal, you have to get those tougher deals that might be a little bit tougher to kind of get. You have to follow up more. You might have to call the seller 7 to 8 to 9 times for them to be like, man, you're persistent. Like, none of these other big guys, we buy houses guys, none of them are calling me that one time. They call me once or twice. Oh, not interested, throw me off the list because they have, they're picking up deals elsewhere. But for me, that's how I started. So, that's how you compete. You are more persistent and a lot more personable, and you'll pick up those deals that the big guys just won't.
Dude, I love that. I love that so much because you're kind of what makes you a little bit different, right? Like, say, I can be more persistent. I could follow up more. I could be more personable. The other guy's just trying to hit a quota. You're really trying to find out what's going on and why they're in foreclosure. I mean, they're going to sense that energy from you, and it's going to help you get the deal, because a lot of times it's not about the price. I wanted to echo about what you were saying because, also being in LA, a lot of people hit me up about that. And, hey, how are you doing deals in LA? So I wanted to kind of go back a little bit real quick. Number one, when I first worked for the initial investor I was working for as an inside sales agent, I remember his buying criteria is like he had to make at least $100,000 profit or he didn't want to touch the deal. And so before I even knew what I was kind of doing all the way, we were kind of throwing away opportunities for maybe wholesaling or for maybe doing a fix and flip deal that was going to make only 40, 50 grand, but he just didn't want to tie up his capital. So what might not be a deal for him was definitely a deal for somebody else. And somebody was going to do that deal, right? So that's the first thing I want to say is that every single investor, as similar as they may be, have different buying criteria and different bandwidth based on how many projects and capital they have access to. And so if you're already in your head thinking you can't do deals in a competitive market, you're already losing the game before you even play. So there's that one. And then when I went to go work for the second investor, their buying criteria was different, but they didn't really want to market. They just wanted to buy off MLS and they just wanted to buy off a trustee sale. And so what ended up happening is that I started doing marketing on my own with my own money that I saved through working with them because they didn't want to do it. And I saw the opportunity because every time they did a little bit of marketing, I got good leads and I converted. So in my head, I'm like, hey, I know I can convert. I know that if I do marketing, I'm probably gonna get some good leads direct to seller. And I don't have to settle for these average deals on MLS. They have their place, but I don't have to be limited only buying that way. So I started marketing on my own. And sure enough, I had a couple deals I got under contract I did joint venture with, And I had a month I made over $100,000, and that was a breakout month for me because I took that additional risk because I didn't believe that, hey, I can't compete in a difficult market. And I was working for a company that was buying 150 houses a year, and they still couldn't buy everything. And I still ended up buying different deals that they didn't want to buy, because one of those deals that I bought, you guys, was a property that I bought subject to, which is, buying it with taking over the mortgage and not having to get a hard money loan. And I did it creatively, and they would never do that. So I wasn't competing directly with even my own employer. I was, like really just creating my own deal. So you have to understand that these deals are created. These deals are not just simply found. And if you compete and you go out there, you can differentiate yourself from the competition as long as you understand what your competitive advantage is. I know my competitive advantage is I work hard. I know what I want. I know real estate values. I'm great at sales. I'm great at negotiating. So I'm going to use all those strengths that I have. Now, am I the best numbers person? No. Am I, the most disciplined person in the world? No. But at least I know myself enough to what my strengths are. And then I try to double down on my strengths compared to just being like, oh, you know what? Let me go somewhere else to a different market. Let me do something else because I just given up before I even tried. So there's no one investor, you guys. I say this all the time, and I believe it with deep in my soul because I've seen it. No one investor can buy every single investment opportunity. It's just impossible. There's too many moving parts. So if that's the case and that's a fact, then you're just one deal away, you're one offer away, you're one action step away from going out there and getting your first deal or your next deal. I truly believe that, or else we wouldn't even be talking about this.
There you have it, folks. Those are your answers coming from the masters themselves, Alex Camacho and Vlad, our special guests. So yeah, with that said, competitive market, take action. Bottom line, it's really basics, you guys. Put yourself out there, network. We have these webinars. So we're going to share a poll coming up. 30% or 30 of you guys said that never wholesaled. So with that said, our next question is, so for people that are looking to get started as a wholesaler, Vlad, where should I start?
And this is a great question. I mean, 31 people responded, hey, I've never even done this, right? So, where would one of these 31 people start, Vlad, if they were looking to get going?
Yeah. So first of all, educate yourself. I mean, if you're already in here, you probably already know. So that's probably all the education you need, honestly. If you already know the basics of real estate, you lock up a good deal under contract, and at that point, you can wholesale it. You don't really need too much, but if you have absolutely no knowledge of real estate, then obviously first educate yourself, but not too much that you have analysis paralysis. And then from that point, know the basics, know the market that you want to invest in. Is this going to be virtually? I don't do virtual, so I probably am not a great resource for that. I like my own backyard. I love Las Vegas. I'm, not born and raised here, but I've lived here since I was about 2.5 years old. So I know all the pockets. I know exactly where the hood starts and where the hood ends. I know where the nice area of town is that's kind of slept on. I love Vegas. It's very competitive, but I like doing deals here because when somebody tells me an address and part of town, I know exactly like, hey, these are the kind of numbers where we'd probably have to be at based on square footage. I'll go comp it, but that's what I know. So personally, if you like the area you live and you're knowledgeable into good real estate market, I would start in your backyard, kind of know what deals are selling for, what investors are buying deals for, which is the most important. What are the cash sales in the area? Because retail sales are one thing, but flippers buying deals, that's a whole different thing. So you have to realize, what is a flipper going to buy a deal for versus what is it going to sell on the market? And so if you see flippers are buying for $100,000 and then they're flipping it for, $150,000 or whatever, then you know that you need to start locking deals up at 90 to 85,000 if you want to make 10 to 15,000 as your assignment fee. So kind of knowing your market, that's number 2. And number 3 is marketing, because if you don't market, you're not going to get deals. So marketing is super, super important. Personally, like I said, you don't need a lot of money to start. My marketing starting out was door knocking, and I can guarantee you that 0 of the big guys that we're competing with that we talked about in the beginning, go out door knocking these pre-foreclosures and tax delinquents. They'll send a mail, but they're not about to go and door knock them and try to, talk to them in person. So that was my marketing to begin with, and that cost me $0, maybe some gas. But usually the way I would do it is I would have to go somewhere anyway, so I might as well stop on the way. So even zero for gas, you would say. But now, I'm obviously marketing a lot more, a few thousand a month. So you can definitely scale up, but starting out, you don't need to, spend a ton of money.
Now, Vlad, when getting ready to purchase a property, we know that some problems may come up, whether on the condition of the property itself or in the purchase process. And some people might be more tolerant to these problems, or others might be less tolerant. But personally, what are your deal breakers when you're looking to for a property to wholesale?
You're muted. Hey, Vlad, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I said no deal breakers for me. Anything that's a deal, I'll work with it. That's the beauty about wholesaling. So, as a flipper, you have your certain buying criteria of things that you buy, but sometimes something runs across that just doesn't work. It's a 1930s built home that has 3 units and an attached apartment unit. Like, let's say you personally don't do this, and you do some flips. That's why I think everybody can be a wholesaler, even if you're not a full-time wholesaler, because now this property came across, you could say, hey, I'm not gonna, lock it up. Or you could say, hey, that's a good deal, just not for me, but I'll lock it up and I'll sell it to an investor here in town. Somebody else will pay me for it, and I'll make an assignment fee, bring some extra cash flow into the company. So 100% no deal breakers. I'll look at anything if it's a deal. And, if now that I'm trying to flip more, if it's something I don't want to flip, then I'll wholesale it, or, figure out a way to, get rid of it.
So, Alex, I mean, that's pretty similar on our business. Wouldn't you agree? If you kind of think about it, like, we kind of market to our own niche of properties that we're looking for. And if it doesn't really fit our scope, that's where you would maybe call one of your partners or somebody in your network and say, hey, does this deal fit your parameters? And do you want to take it down?
Yeah, absolutely. We recently, remember that property in Pacoima, it just had too many moving parts. There was issues with the tenants, and we didn't want to deal with like buying it occupied with uncooperative tenants. I mean, not that we haven't done that before, but
this one had a little bit of drug use in it, and so there was some extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, and it was off of a main street, and it was like a small lot, but it had the pool, but it was a small lot. It just had too much going on. I didn't really want to take on that risk. So then, Moises, he had a client that wanted to buy it. We didn't make much, $5,000, but hey, $5,000 that I have, I'd rather have that 5,000 than not. And so, our business model is to buy entry level to mid-level properties to flip that are cosmetic rehab. Sometimes we'll go heavy rehab if it's a deeper discount, but that's our business model. And so if it doesn't fit that box, then we'll look to wholesale or help list the property. So, these are just different tools in your investor's tool belt. So you need to get good at one strategy. Like Vlad is, really good at wholesaling now in a competitive market. So he's in the driver's seat of where deals are, he's originating the deal. And now he's transitioning to also doing fix and flip deals and joint venture deals, right? And so he's continuing to add to his investor's toolbox. If you guys recall, I just mentioned that deal that was one of my best deals ever, and I bought it subject to. If I didn't have that tool in my tool belt, I would have passed on that deal. But instead, it turned out to be one of my best deals ever because I was continually learning new strategies. Even though I had already had some success, I was making some money, I knew how to flip property, I was always looking to learn more. And I didn't learn that from my other mentors. I learned that by listening to Bigger Pockets, by talking to other investors, by all this other, learning. So yeah, it's just a matter of just knowing that there's different ways to skin a cat. You just have to have, your different ways. And if you do, then you're a more powerful investor overall.
That's great. And Vlad, I know you kind of alluded to this earlier with the virtual wholesaling, but we've had, Susie and Ulysses, a couple of our other attendees in the chat have said, hey, I'm in a really competitive market too. would you ever consider virtually wholesaling, like going outside of your market? No, maybe not just doing in Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, I know that Vegas was competitive, but I also saw your results kind of from the start. Like, hey, if I hustle, I can, kind of build something out here, and that's always been my not priority, but preference. I guess is the word. So, I've kind of built that out. But yeah, I've definitely looked into wholesaling in some other markets. I think if you're in a really, really competitive market and you just, I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with, going and wholesaling somewhere else. For me, it just, hasn't been come up as a great opportunity because you need, boots on the ground, somebody you could trust in that area. Haven't built those connections yet, but possibly. I've looked at a few markets. I've looked at North Carolina. If you're in North Carolina, reach out to me. Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're in any of those markets and you're a newbie, you want to reach out, feel free. I mean, I have the marketing dollars. I'll, be more than happy to have my cold callers call out there and kind of see what we can get. But for now, it's just been Vegas because, backyard.
So you heard it here first, man. If you want to work for free and you live in one of those two markets, Vlad's got the money. You kind of be the other person there, and Alex has talked about this on some of our prior weeks. Roles and goals. So he just gave you some of his goals, and if you have a role that can fit in with him, you might have just hit your home run here. So incredible stuff. Thank you, Vlad.
Yes, thank you. And you guys, I did put his Instagram, so I will, keep his word for it. If you want to follow him or send him a message, it's in the chat box right there. All right. So next one, coming to, what is the biggest assignment fee you've ever made on a deal? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. So the biggest assignment fee I personally made, it was a $42,000 assignment, which is, crazy amount of money. I probably, for anybody that doesn't know, I was actually working another job prior to starting real estate. So probably made more on one assignment than I did all year working, and I would work hard too. So it's definitely, real estate is dope. It's awesome.
Yeah. And then I want to kind of say something about that because I've been wanting to kind of post something about this, and it's just like the idea of like the new normal. Like we're all dealing with it right now, right? This is a new normal, like doing virtual meetings, wearing a mask when you go on public. So now at first it was kind of weird, but now it's normal, the new normal, right? And I remember when I first started, like a $10,000 paycheck, $20,000 paycheck would, significantly improve and change my life. And it was like it was great. Now it's like I get checks way bigger than that. And I don't say that to be arrogant. I'm saying that like now it's a new normal for me. And so, but I'm looking forward to like the day where like $100,000 doesn't change my life. Maybe even $1 million that doesn't change my life. So you have to be thinking about this stuff to be like, hey, at some point it feels like it's so far, but once you get there, be like, all right, this is my life now. This is like my business now. This is what I do now. And now it's the next like step and the next step and the next step. So what is the new normal that you would like to see for your life is the question I have for you guys, right? Think about that.
That's amazing. Yeah, good thought right there, Alex. Definitely could not agree more. I know sometimes with real estate, you get comfortable making a certain amount, so it becomes not good enough. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. Assignment fee, what I meant to say, sorry, I didn't know if I was muted or not, mean like profit as to what he did for a wholesale. And then next one, Vlad as well, is how do you determine what that should be per wholesale deal that you do?
Yeah. So in terms of like an assignment fee that I, pick out for a property, when we're looking at assignment fees, I usually, I want to be sure that I could close on it. So in order for me to know what I can close on it with, it has to be, with my own hard money costs. So, what I'm going to be paying in hard money, my own construction costs, so what my contractor would be charging me. So I include all of that. I get my own rehab budget. Like, hey, I would personally buy this deal at $230,000. So now if I lock up anything under 230, then I could theoretically just wholesale it right to myself and we could flip it and I'll be happy. So let's say 230 is the number. Hey, I would buy it at 230. I go back and then we negotiate with the seller. We are able to negotiate at 212. So now that's an $18,000 assignment if I was wholesaling it to myself. But, then I go back and I reach out to some of my other cash buyers that may have a little bit of a different buy criteria. I use hard money. Let's say somebody has way cheaper hard money, or, cheaper financing, or they have no financing at all. Some of the bigger guys here in town, they just have a ton of cash. They're just really, really cash heavy. So they might not have any holding costs besides, utilities and stuff like that. So for me, I would be paying, 10 to 12,000 in holding costs, with between points and all of that. They might not. So that's another 12,000 that I could add to the assignment potentially if they're interested in this deal. So all of a sudden I could buy it at 230, but somebody else could buy it at 242. I locked it up at 212. I just created a $30,000 assignment fee, essentially kind of not out of nowhere, but you squeeze the margins on the way down. You get it, just when you're working on market. That's why I like off market so much personally, like wholesaling and being direct to seller. Because with a seller, when they're, they might be selling their house, that 5,000 won't change their life to an extent. A lot of the time they're like, I'm just trying to solve my problem. Like, how are you going to solve it? And, sometimes we feel guilty. We're like, well, 220, like we have to be at 220, but then I'll throw out 215. I'm like, hey, you think we can work at 215? What's going on with that? And they'll be like, yeah, we can do it at 215. So now I just decrease it by 5 on this side. And I found a buyer that's willing to pay a little bit more maybe. So now I just created, a bigger assignment for me. So I don't really have like a set criteria. I know what my buyers will buy in Vegas. I know what I'll buy it at. And then whatever I get under that, it'll just be kind of an addition to the assignment.
Guys, that's incredible stuff. If you don't mind, if you guys are watching along, go ahead and use the chat and give us a big VLAD if you would want to make 5, 10, 30, or $42,000 on a check. If those kind of numbers are life-changing for you, go ahead and give us a big old VLAD or a yes or a thank you, something there in the chat. This is just incredible stuff. Again, to see somebody who's able to kind of turn that concept, like, look, how I can negotiate and get that extra 5,000 here, that extra 10,000 here, understanding the hard money points and the different buyer categories that he's going to have. Again, for a 21-year-old real estate investor, it's a level of maturity that you don't really see from most people. Kind of moving forward, Vlad, speaking of a 21-year-old, not many 21-year-olds out there are business owners, are employing people. And you're actually at the point where you have a couple of people that work underneath you and you're looking to expand. Tell us a little bit more, like when you're making your first hire for your company, what are you looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, it's just me working with VAs. I have virtual assistants that work in Honduras, and they're rock stars. They're doing well for me. A couple of them are more on the rookie side, and then one of them has been around with me the longest, which the longest is about 5 months. So that's still a good amount of time. Now for me, I'm looking kind of for I'm hiring an acquisitions person, somebody that's hungry and looking for deals. I don't want anybody that's kind of looking to wholesale themselves to an extent. I kind of want somebody who's more looking to grow like a real estate company as, a manager, somebody that I can invest a lot of time in, because at the end of the day, I'm more than happy to JV on a lot of deals. If you're a newer wholesaler, you want to get into the wholesale game, be your own boss, that's awesome. I want to do that, but I'm not looking to bring anybody else like that into the company and, invest a lot of time and resources into training that. So, and I advise anybody else who's, maybe looking to hire, definitely work with other rock stars, but entrepreneurs are never going to be a good addition to your company because most of the time they just want to be entrepreneurs themselves, which is absolutely awesome. But for me, I'm kind of looking for somebody that's looking to work in real estate, but, more or less trying to manage a real estate company.
That's awesome. And like, whether it is, hiring acquisitions or admin, those are definitely probably going to be two of the things that are coming up next for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like I was saying, I'm looking for acquisitions guy, somebody that's a stone cold closer. you don't have to be a closer for sure. It could definitely be, I feel like it could be taught, but you do have to be kind of like coachable, have really good like desire to learn and get better. And I think that's huge. And then I'm looking for like an admin transaction coordinator here in Las Vegas. Somebody like Jay would be awesome. Somebody that's kind of like an agent as well. That would be like killer. Potentially listing flips once it comes down to it. I am actually currently licensed if anybody's interested. I'm here licensed in Vegas. I don't like the agent side. I'm not a big fan. I haven't done a single residential deal. I have MLS access. I negotiate deals on MLS and stuff like that, but I've never done, sold somebody's house for them, let's say. So hiring an admin, I don't like the escrow side, somebody take care of that, and a closer. That's, my next hires.
You guys heard it here, people. So
Now that you touched that subject, Vlad, about having 3 virtual assistants in Honduras, just real quickly, how do you cross paths with them? How do you start that relationship, and what do they do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think a lot of people struggle with hiring like their first virtual assistants and stuff like that. And it's kind of like trial and error, really. I was looking for a virtual assistant company and I couldn't really find anybody. And then I saw one of my friends who's also a wholesaler. Well, friends, I met him through, something like this as well. He's a younger guy, 21 years old. He's in North Carolina. And he's like, hey, I started using this company. It's called Phone Beast. You should try them out. So I ended up trying them out. They were a little bit on the expensive side, but, they were generating leads for me. And I found a VA I really liked. He was like above and beyond. I had a couple of VAs, but this guy was killing it. He was bringing in all the leads, but I wasn't really closing anything. So I got a little bit scared. I was like, hey, I'm going to cut off the marketing for a little bit. We're going to reevaluate all the leads that have come in and see what we can do. So right when I cut off the marketing, I ended up actually closing 3 deals that netted me like $65,000 in assignments. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because I just spent, literally probably $1,500. And I thought it was probably around closer to 2,000, but it felt like a lot of money when no money's coming in. It's like $2,000. I spent $2,000 and no results. But when you look back, it's like 30x the results. It's like, okay, this is definitely worth it. So I ended up actually crossing back to that company, and I reached out to my VA that I had, and I was like, hey, are you still working there? Because I'm going to hire you back on with the company. And he was like, no, I'm not. I actually quit. I was like, oh, perfect. I actually didn't really want to use them anyways. So they're a little expensive. I'm sure they were paying you way less. So I'll pay you more than you were getting paid, but less than I was paying them. Do you want to work with me? And I'm pretty sure I signed like a non-disclosure. So if anybody works for that company in this group, please don't snitch me out. But non-compete, not non-disclosure. But the guy ended up going and working for me, and he's a killer. He crushes it. He wants to learn. And so that was my first VA. And so I started looking for more VAs, and I just asked him, I was like, hey, you work, you're a killer. You're doing a great job. Do you have some friends that want to work possibly? And he was like, yeah, well, my friends, they want to work as well. And they're eager to learn. I was like, okay. I ended up interviewing them. I liked 2 of them. I ended up hiring them on, and now I have 3 VAs in Honduras. So just kind of trial and error, plugging and going, still evaluating them, where they need to improve and stuff like that. We do weekly trainings. I think that's huge. So yeah, that's kind of how I, started my company with the VA route.
Guys, you heard it here first. Jay is smart, educated, a realist. Oh wait, we weren't talking about Jay. We were talking about Vlad. Sorry about that, guys. You heard it here first. Vlad is clearly just an absolute legend and an all-star, and it's been an absolute pleasure having him on with us. We had a couple of questions coming in the Q&A, so we're going to answer Alejandro's question real quick. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and open this up so that everybody can join us here in the chat and hang out. In the meantime, Vlad, if you don't mind answering Alejandro's question. Alejandro is wondering, how nervous were you and how did you overcome that when you were first kind of making the dive? And then if there's anything you can kind of tell yourself day one, if you could go back, what would that be?
Oh, I believe we're muted. There we go.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, for sure, nervous. I mean, I still get nervous sometimes when things, as an entrepreneur, things are going to go super sour sometimes, and it's your job to kind of figure them out and work from there. So I think if you're nervous, you're doing something well. Just keep on pushing through the nervousness. You'll never not be nervous in the business. I know you get more accustomed to the regular stuff. There's always going to be unknown stuff that kind of comes in, and it's kind of a curveball. I know I personally haven't gotten, but I know other guys in the real estate space, it just comes with the territory. You get sued for dumb stuff. Like, it just happens. And I'm sure at some point it will happen to me as well. I'll probably be nervous doing that too, and going through that process. You're going to be going through something for the first time, all your life. So just push through it. It's the first time of something, greater, and going from there. And then you had one more question, I think. It said, if you could go back to when you first started and advice, what advice would you give yourself? Just keep going. I would start earlier, first of all. But definitely just get started and keep going, because, and don't quit. For, a lot of, in the beginning, I, started off and I was kind of hesitant, but just go full speed. Don't think twice about it, and you'll definitely succeed.
Guys, great answers. You guys know this is Alex's favorite part, his chance to get to call you guys out and say what's up. If you don't mind, turn on your cameras, turn on your screens. That way we can see you. We want to be able to grow the community, and people want to be able to know who you are and where you are and what you're doing. If Ulysses can be at the gym working out or be at his office, I know he's in the shop right now putting in some work. And if he can do that, everybody else can tune in and turn on their cameras. So we appreciate you, man.
What's up, everybody? My deal makers. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ben, Rory, Christian, Hector, Andy, Victor, Susie, Doug, Ulysses, Alejandro. Got some new people here. My man Derek over in Washington, Kamohe, Warren. What's up, you guys? Love to see you guys. Make sure you guys are sharing this weekly thing. We're doing it every single week, you guys. Make sure that if you don't check out, you guys could always see the uploaded recorded version on YouTube. We're just trying to grow this community, giving value as much as we possibly can. The vibe of the tribe is so important to us. I'm gonna be flying out of Hawaii next week. We got a duplex listing next week in LA. So maybe when I'm in LA, I could connect with some of you people that are in SoCal in person. I'm offering a steak dinner as well for whoever brings us a deal. With us and the team. So if you guys are in SoCal or in Hawaii, you guys got a deal coming up, let me know. We're still buying. But yeah, I just want to again thank you guys for attending the webinar, for asking some great questions, for participating, for all, just really being a part of helping to grow your lives and the people around, because we could do it a lot better together than apart. I want to shout out as many people as I can, but looks like we got still got about 30, almost 40 people. Renee, what's up, buddy? Keon, sorry for saying that wrong. But we got my
guys, if you don't mind, go ahead and use the chat again real quick to put in your Instagram handles. Now that you can see everybody, put in your name, your Instagram handle, where you're from, just one more time in that chat. That way we know that Victor's out in Culver City, right down the block from us. That way, we know that Camo High is out there in Hawaii taking down deals. That way we know where everybody is. And where it is that they're looking to take down deals. All right.
Yeah, because you never know, you guys, when you might, need somebody in the network. It's constantly expanding your network is very important. Like I'm been blessed to be here in Hawaii, but it's because of the networking, the social media, the constant action taking. And thank you so much again, Vlad, for coming, attending. I know you're busy, go-getter out there, but I think you dropped a lot of gems today. So yeah, I don't have anything else, but again, I appreciate you guys, and let's make this thing stronger every week.
Guys, next week, I think, as we mentioned, we're going to go ahead and have Alex jump on the phones. So we're going to have Alex probably make about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes or so of live phone calls to some sellers. Jay and I this week are going to be going out tomorrow to Palmdale in the Antelope Valley. Yes. And we are going to drive for dollars for about 2 hours. And those 2 hours of driving for dollars are going to be the exact leads that we're going to show you what we do with next week. So we're going to open up Alex's business systems. We're going to have Marlon show you guys how Jay and I take those leads, send them over to Marlon. Marlon will get them skip traced. We'll show you what skip tracing means, what that process is, how it works, how it loads in these different numbers then into a call system. And then Alex is going to live jump on the line and make these calls. So hopefully you guys are able to tune in and join us for that. That's going to be really awesome to see Alex live on the phones. I know he's a cold-hearted killer when he gets on those calls. So we'll see if we can drum up some deals, and keep in touch, guys, if you need anything. I think we're going to start a Facebook group as well. We were talking it over with Vlad, and he was like, you know what? I think if you guys started a Facebook group, I'd be happy to share my wholesaling contract. And as long as that's still good to go, Vlad, I think he said he's going to go ahead and put a copy of his wholesaling contract into the Facebook group when we start that off. So if you guys do want to start wholesaling and you don't have a contract, you can connect with Vlad, see how he made his and how he's using his. All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys, it was great seeing you guys. Vlad, any closing thoughts?
No. Well, I guess one closing thought, I think, it's super important to have a mentor. Like I said, I reached out to a mentor. I didn't really provide value. He told me off essentially, but the next time around, I, didn't really deep dive in, but my first deal ever actually ended up doing with that same mentor, because I went out, took action, found leads, actually converted a lead and reached out. So I think it's important to have somebody like Alex. I mean, if you're in Los Angeles, you get started, you have a lead, you don't know what you're doing with it. It's like, how do I get it under contract? It's like, you remember the person that, has pushed you into it, the person that has given you the value. Reach out to Alex. I'm sure he's going to be more than happy to, JV with you on the deal or buy it from you wholesale, whatever it takes. And it's going to help you a lot. You're going to learn a lot, but go out, take action, crush it. And once you don't know something, reach out to Alex and he'll probably, help you out.
Sounds good. Yes.
Was
Thank you.
there a steak dinner on the line on that one, on that first deal? No.
Vegan.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys, go out there and crush it. Let us know if you have any questions, if you need anything. All right. I'll see you guys.
Take care. See you guys next week. Stay tuned. Next one's going to be really great.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for this.
Stay safe out there, everybody.